The first myth doesn't come from the wilderness, it comes from your own mind. Most people who call themselves prepared are rehearsing for a movie scene, not an extinction event. They confuse confidence with competence, and that mistake kills faster than starvation. Every training you've taken, every drill you've memorized was built on the illusion that the environment would respect your preparation. It won't. When systems collapse, logic doesn't expand. It contracts. Your field of awareness narrows to heat, thirst, sound, motion. The body reverts to the oldest operating system, fear. Under fear, 90% of all learned behavior becomes non-functional. This is the first kill mechanism, cognitive decay under stress. You don't become the hero you train to be. You degrade to the animal you've always been. Civilization conditioned you for control, predictable patterns, fixed outcomes, scheduled rescue. Collapse destroys that feedback loop. What replaces it is asymmetry, a world where every advantage has a cost. Every fire reveals your position. Every calorie burned is one you can't replace. Every hour awake pushes you closer to biological insolvency. The game isn't how to survive. It's how not to be seen while still existing. Your old survival doctrine was built on a static model, predictable threats, moderate environments, and a guaranteed end to the crisis. None of those exist now. The operational landscape has shifted to chaos physics. No constants, only variables. The average person still trains for linear scenarios. Step 1, build shelter. Step 2, start fire. Step 3, signal for help. In reality, collapse survival is a feedback loop of decision errors and biological decay, accelerated by environmental hostility. Every second you spend in nostalgia for that training manual is a second you're dying without realizing it. Here's the principle. You don't rise to the level of your training. You fall to the level of your actual logic. Training is repetition. Logic is adaptation. The moment you realize this, you stop imitating routines and start calculating risk as numbers, not feelings. The survivor doesn't ask, "What should I do?" He runs the equation. Energy output versus resource input versus exposure probability. That equation determines your next move, not your emotions, not your myths. The world that made you comfortable is dead. Its rules are obsolete. The new law is physics, indifferent, cold, absolute. Every mistake is terminal. Every noise is data. Every second is an exchange rate. You are no longer a student of survival. You are the last remaining variable in an equation that only wants to erase you. Understand that, and you've already stepped into the real world. Fire, the symbol of mastery, safety, civilization. In every survival manual, it's the first commandment. Build fire, secure warmth, establish control. But in a collapse environment, that instinct is a liability disguised as comfort. Fire doesn't make you safe. It broadcasts your position, drains your energy, and tells the world exactly where to find your calories. It's not warmth. It's a flare announcing your existence to everything still hunting for order. The myth comes from psychology, not physics. Humans associate flame with safety because for millennia, predators feared it. But now, your predators are not animals. They're humans running low on food, sanity, and empathy. Smoke rises, heat signatures bloom. Reflective surfaces reveal your presence to infrared optics miles away. In darkness, even a small ember becomes a beacon. You think you're surviving. You're actually declaring, "I'm still edible." From a scientific perspective, fire is the least efficient survival tool. You burn calories gathering fuel, lose hydration through respiration, and radiate up to 70% of heat into open air. That's entropy, energy wasted into nothing. The illusion of warmth conceals the math. Fire's energy to output ratio collapses in open systems. For every gram of wood consumed, you gain seconds of heat, but expose hours of visibility. In survival calculus, that's bankruptcy. Operationally, you must switch to thermal discipline. This means regulating body heat, not creating external heat. Use insulation layers, exploit microclimates, and seal radiant loss zones around the core and neck. Replace flame with reflection, metallized mylar, soil, or layered vegetation. Learn to trap the heat you already produce. In a world where every resource is finite, conservation beats creation. The new doctrine is silent thermogenesis: zero smoke, zero light, zero trace. The second concept, low-profile heat systems, rewrites the fire doctrine. Heat must now be localized, shielded, and invisible. Dig burn pits, use directional exhaust, feed only ember-grade material. In open terrain, use chemical hand warmers or phase change materials as your thermal battery. Fire is not banned. It's controlled under stealth protocol. If your fire can be seen, you've already failed the first principle of collapse logic. Exposure equals elimination. You must understand that the emotional comfort fire provides is your real enemy. It tells your nervous system a lie, that warmth equals safety. It sedates logic, numbs caution, and lowers auditory vigilance. That moment of comfort costs awareness, and awareness is survival's only currency. The real survivors don't chase warmth, they regulate entropy. They calculate how much heat can be retained per calorie expended, how far light carries in humid air, how quickly scent molecules travel under crosswind. They understand that every flame has a voice, and the silence that follows it is often fatal. The myth said, fire solves everything. The truth is that it solves nothing. It just delays the moment you realize the environment is already watching. Shelter first. That's the phrase burned into every survival student's brain, as if the environment will pause its assault while you build a roof. It's the kind of advice that works in classrooms, not in chaos. Shelter is not a priority, it's a transaction. You trade time, calories, and attention for protection. And if that exchange happens too early or too long, the environment wins. The original doctrine was built for static threats: cold, rain, heat. But collapse introduces dynamic threats: pursuit, surveillance, resource scarcity. A structure that shelters you from weather also anchors you in one location. It fixes your coordinates for anyone scanning for movement or thermal irregularity. You can't defend what you can't leave. The first truth of post-collapse architecture: every wall is a trap if it limits mobility. Let's rewrite the logic. Shelter isn't about comfort, it's about energy economics. Every move, every cut of wood, every layer of insulation costs metabolic fuel. That's why the shelter-first dogma is lethal. It assumes infinite energy and static conditions. Real survival follows a different equation. The caloric conservation algorithm, CCA. It's simple. You act only when the energy you spend yields a return higher than the energy it protects. Build nothing that doesn't pay for itself in calories saved. Here's the principle. Exposure doesn't kill instantly. Exhaustion does. Hypothermia is just a symptom of metabolic bankruptcy. You don't freeze because you lacked shelter. You freeze because you overspent calories building it. The paradox of collapse is that comfort kills faster than cold. The logic becomes brutal. Every movement must justify its cost. You build when your body's furnace is stable, not when fear commands you to act. Biologically, the body already contains a perfect shelter system: thermoregulation, vasoconstriction, shivering thermogenesis, behavioral positioning, all of it designed to buy you hours of survival without structure. But the civilian brain, addicted to comfort, panics when exposed. That panic triggers motion, and motion burns energy. Within hours, you've dug your own grave, 1 calorie at a time. Operationally, the exposure hierarchy replaces the shelter-first doctrine. The sequence is not find cover, it's reduce surface area, control perspiration, exploit terrain, then construct. A rock overhang and a reflective blanket outperform a log cabin in the first 72 hours. Shelter isn't what you build. It's what you don't need to build because you understood the physics of heat retention. When the system collapses, you must think like entropy. Minimize losses, not maximize comfort. The only home that matters is your thermal balance. Everything else is architecture for the dead. The survivor's mindset is surgical. Observe, adapt, relocate. Shelter is never permanent. It's a pause between calculations. You occupy it, extract rest, and abandon it before it becomes a coffin. Forget the comfort doctrine. The only structure that matters is the one between your logic and the storm. Stay put. Wait for rescue. That sentence has killed more people than dehydration and infection combined. It is not a survival rule. It's a psychological leash forged in peacetime. The idea assumes rescue exists, that order still functions, that someone still has the bandwidth to care. In collapse, there are no helicopters, no coordinated grids, no response time. There is only decay. Waiting becomes a slow-motion suicide camouflaged as hope. Dependency programming is the invisible virus of civilization. You were raised to believe that safety is external. Someone, somewhere, will come. But the rescue myth collapses under the math of entropy. In a systemic breakdown, communication networks fragment in hours, mobility collapses in days, and information accuracy dies by the end of the first week. The probability of detection curve decays exponentially. After 72 hours, your statistical relevance to any rescue effort approaches zero. You are no longer a target for help. You are noise in a dying system. Psychologically, immobility triggers apathy. The body follows the mind, stationary, passive, draining. Every hour spent static accelerates physical decline, reduced circulation, temperature drop, cognitive slowdown. You think you're conserving energy, but you're feeding entropy. Stillness invites decay. Decay attracts death. The operational correction is the active recon protocol. You move not recklessly, but with purpose to expand situational data, locate resources, and maintain metabolic rhythm. Movement generates circulation, heat, and intelligence. Every meter gained extends your control over uncertainty. Mobility is survival's heartbeat. Stasis is its flatline. But motion without discipline is noise, and noise kills. That's where stealth logic governs the equation. You never move on emotion, only when the environment's sensory balance favors you. Dawn and dusk are prime windows. Rain is a shield. Wind is your ally. Your movement pattern must read like a ghost, present in data, absent in detection. You observe, map, calculate, and adapt. You are not fleeing danger. You are erasing your predictability. From a population psychology standpoint, collapse rewrites visibility. In functioning systems, visibility equals safety. Others can find and aid you. In failure systems, visibility equals threat. Others can find and exploit you. The paradigm inverts completely. To stay put is to remain within the expectation pattern of a dead civilization. To move is to step outside its logic and enter operational freedom. The emotional instinct to wait is powerful. It feels moral, hopeful, human. But collapse erases those currencies. The longer you wait, the more irrelevant you become to both predators and rescuers. Time doesn't heal here. It hunts. So you move. Not because you're running away, but because entropy rewards motion. Every step shifts the probability curve in your favor. The myth said, someone is coming. The truth is no one is. And that realization, that total abandonment, is the first real step towards survival. Water is everywhere. Just boil it. That's what the old manuals told you, a half-truth repeated so often it became law. But in collapse logic, half-truths kill. Water is not everywhere, and boiling is not salvation. The myth survives because people mistake clarity for purity. The eye sees liquid and calls it life. Biology calls it a delivery system for pathogens, toxins, radiation, and decay. You don't drink what you find, you drink what you control. Boiling is an incomplete ritual. It kills living organisms, yes, but it does nothing to neutralize the inorganic, the chemical, or the nuclear. Pesticides, fuel runoff, heavy metals, volatile compounds, all of them persist. You can boil a puddle into steam and still die from the residue. Civilization has been leaking its poison for decades. When the grid dies, every rain, river, and rusted pipe becomes a chemical equation with no mercy for ignorance. To survive, you must understand water physics, not just water access. Water isn't a resource, it's a solvent. It carries everything it touches. Boiling alters temperature, not composition. Filtration alters composition, not energy load. The only process that guarantees control is distillation, the act of converting chaos into condensation. Distillation is not a gadget. It's a principle of entropy management. It separates phase, not faith. It demands logic, not luck. Operationally, the distillation principle becomes your hydration doctrine. You exploit phase change, vapor rises, contaminants stay behind. A simple pressure vessel, a condensation coil, or even solar capture using transparent sheeting can save your blood chemistry when the world turns toxic. You are not purifying, you are refining. Every drop distilled is a victory against the unseen chemical war still waging long after the bombs or industries stopped. Biologically, dehydration is predictable. The body's water loss follows a strict pattern: cognitive decline at 2%, motor dysfunction at 5%, organ failure near 15%. That's the hydration decay curve, and it's irreversible past a point. In survival math, water is not something you find, it's something you forecast. You must calculate consumption based on metabolic rate, ambient temperature, and terrain load. You plan water the way soldiers plan ammunition, by volume, not hope. The modern myth of abundance creates false security. People think rivers and lakes are benevolent. They're not. Water is indifferent, a mirror reflecting your level of discipline. The survivor understands that every sip carries a cost in weight, risk, and exposure. That's why hydration protocols merge with stealth logic. You drink under cover, store under darkness, and move before dew evaporates. Water is hunted. It must be acquired invisibly, transported silently, and consumed strategically. The ancient world worshipped water because it was life. The post-collapse world fears it because it's uncertain. You can die of thirst surrounded by it. That's the irony entropy writes best. The old saying was, just boil it. The new one is colder. If you didn't control its phase, you didn't control its threat. The lone wolf, the fantasy every survivalist secretly feeds. The vision is cinematic. One man, one rifle, one code, walking through ruins untouched by dependence. It feels pure, heroic, uncorrupted by the weakness of others. But that image belongs to fiction. In collapse, isolation is not freedom. It's fragmentation. The lone wolf doesn't survive longer. He just dies quieter. The myth survives because solitude feels powerful in theory. You eliminate betrayal, simplify decisions, remove noise. But biologically and tactically, humans are not built for singularity. The lone operator's efficiency peaks early, then collapses as fatigue, sleep deprivation, and cognitive erosion set in. Without feedback, your situational awareness decays. Without secondary verification, your logic begins to loop. Paranoia becomes your only ally, and eventually your executioner. The real world doesn't care about pride. It runs on math, and the math favors networks. This is the multiplier rule applied to human systems. Every additional operator increases efficiency exponentially, not linearly. Two people can accomplish 4 times the output of one. Division of labor, mutual observation, rotation of rest, shared logistics. A small unit multiplies survival probabilities by reducing entropy through shared computation. Alone, you're an equation with no redundancy. One error and the system crashes. But unity doesn't mean trust by emotion. Collapse rewrites the social algorithm. Alliances must be transactional, not sentimental. You don't build groups based on comfort or ideology. You build them based on function. One medic, one logistician, one sentry, one scout. That's not friendship, that's architecture. The new tribe is a micro-unit, small, fluid, silent, and replaceable. You move as a network of overlapping competencies, not as a crowd of fragile egos. Psychologically, the lone wolf myth originates from control addiction, the illusion that autonomy equals safety. But total control is a mirage. Even your own biology rebels against it. You can't guard while you sleep, can't defend while injured, can't sustain vigilance without dopamine feedback from shared presence. Humans evolved as cooperative predators. Removing that dynamic doesn't make you stronger, it makes you uncalibrated. Operationally, micro-unit logic is the only sustainable format for post-collapse survival. Each member is a redundancy node, overlapping skills, overlapping responsibility. No single point of failure. The ideal unit is invisible to outsiders, but internally synchronized through silent protocol. Minimal speech, maximal awareness. The unit's strength is anonymity. You don't exist as individuals. You exist as one moving equation, self-healing, self-correcting, self-erasing. The lone wolf believes stealth is silence. The micro-unit understands stealth is synchronization. One man hides, the group disappears. One man reacts, the group anticipates. One man dies, the group adapts. The myth of the lone survivor was built for novels. The truth is arithmetic. 2 minds double perception, 3 triple efficiency, 4 establish civilization seed again. The future isn't solitary, it's modular. And in the silence of the ruined world, the last sound the lone wolf hears is his own breath, fading into data the world no longer needs. All myths converge here. The final principle that binds every rule, every failure, every act of survival into one brutal equation. Survival is not instinct. It's not courage. It's math. Every breath you take, every step you choose, every calorie you burn is a transaction inside a closed system that does not forgive inefficiency. You are not battling nature. You are negotiating with physics, biology, and entropy, forces that cannot be deceived, only delayed. The collapse stripped away the illusions, comfort, rescue, community, even the myth of personal control. What's left is pure arithmetic. You trade heat for stealth, motion for safety, trust for efficiency. You balance risk against gain, exposure against concealment, action against silence. The survivors aren't those who fight harder. They're the ones who calculate better. Emotion misprices cost. Logic doesn't. The weak die because they act on feeling. The strong live because they act on numbers. The equation is absolute. Energy plus logic. Time. The more precisely you apply both, the more seconds you steal from decay. Waste one, and entropy collects its debt. Everything you own, everything you carry, everything you decide must serve at least three functions. That's the multiplier rule, the law of sustainable existence. Your knife is not a tool. It's a key, a weapon, a signaling device, a calorie converter. Your shelter is not comfort. It's thermoregulation, concealment, and psychological reset. The survivors see every object as code, multi-use, zero waste, infinite recalibration. And beneath the calculations lies the hardest truth of all. Emotion kills. Not because it's weak, but because it's expensive. Hope without plan burns focus. Fear without data burns time. Guilt burns sleep. In collapse, everything that burns without return shortens your operational lifespan. You must become emotionless not to be cold, but to conserve computation. Detachment is discipline. To think like a survivor is to think like the environment, neutral, opportunistic, efficient. You don't conquer nature. You synchronize with it. You don't command others. You coordinate systems. You are not the hero of a narrative. You are an algorithm that adapts faster than decay. Every mistake is feedback. Every failure, data. Every second, a recalibration. When you finally understand that survival is mathematics, that living another day is the result of correct calculation, not courage, the world becomes terrifyingly simple. You are a moving equation inside a dying ecosystem. Keep the balance, and you exist. Break it, and you vanish. No drama, no warning, no story. The world ended the day the old rules stopped applying. But the truth? It was never about the world. It was about logic. The last myth you must bury is time, because you don't have it. You have only decisions, and each one rewrites the equation of your existence.